They're secretly preparing for the Great Space War, according to claims, and we won't even see what's about to happen in the movies. A space war is about to happen, quote unquote. The Pentagon is not ready to deal with it. Several U.S. experts and politicians warn, as if we don't have enough problems here on Earth, such as diseases, wars, famines, and conflicts. It seems we also have to worry about possible war in space. The article published in Politico in April 6, 2018 by Brian Bender and Jacqueline Klimas points out that Russia and China are far ahead of the United States in terms of militarizing space and developing means capable of destroying or disabling the satellites on which the U.S. military depends, guiding precision bombs, missiles, and drones, etc. Meanwhile, the Pentagon is trying to make up for years of underinvestment, pouring billions of dollars into strengthening its defense against anti-satellite weapons, training troops, and improving the means to respond to a new form of combat in space until now has only been present in Hollywood cinema. And we're now approaching a point where Star Wars is not just a movie, said Steve Isakowicz, CEO of Aerospace Corps, a government-funded think tank that serves as the military's top advisor on space. According to Isakowicz, the U.S. can no longer afford to take its dominance for granted. This superiority in space has allowed us to have the greatest warfighting capability in the world, whether our soldiers are on the battlefield or our drones are flying overhead, or our bombers flying around the world, or we are collecting intelligence, he told Politico. More and more every day, literally, we depend on it, and our adversaries know it, he said in the interview. It was no surprise that U.S. President Donald Trump recently called for the creation of this space war. That was in his first presidency, a separate military branch responsible for ensuring U.S. supremacy in space, a role currently largely played by the Air Force. Similarly, Trump's national security strategy has for the first time designated space as a vital interest and ordered the armed forces to consider space as a priority area. But that may not be enough. Mike Rogers, chairman of the House Armed Services Subcommittee on Strategic Forces, predicts that war in space will happen, and that the question is just whether it happens in the next few years or the next 5 or 6 years. In this sense, Rogers worries about whether the U.S. Air Force is paying enough attention to space. They always say, we have what we plan for the future, Rogers said, but when they're asked to prioritize space this way, they say they can't. People have to remember that when it comes to fighting a war, our eyes and ears have to be in space. We can't let adversaries take out our eyes and ears, he said, referring to satellites. Other experts are urging the Trump administration to think more carefully about its military space policy. Joan Johnson-Freed, professor of national security at the Naval War College, doubts that space can be treated like any other war. You can't control all of the space all of the time, she says, explaining that the physics of space are just different than other wars. On the other hand, Cassandra Steer, executive director of the Center for Ethics and Judicial Law at the University of Pennsylvania, warns that an armed conflict in space would be disastrous for all players, including neutral states. However, the truth is that the question arises whether all this preparation and fever for a war in space or for the control of space is just ashes in the eyes, and that something will really happen between earthly states. Does what they expect to happen in the coming years have to do with visits of other civilizations to our Earth from other planets? Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.